Hello everyone, today I'm going to be talking about 10 of my favorite black metal albums ever. This isn't a top 10, it's not an order, that might be a video that will come out later. I'm just going to get straight into it. First up is the album that is currently my profile picture, Das Tor by Peste Noire. For those unfamiliar with Peste Noire, this is a one-man project from Switzerland by Tobias Mockl, and it's very raw. Very long songs, very ambient, creates a very wintry landscape. Paysage d'hiver literally means winter landscape. You cannot listen to this project the same way you listen to any other kind of music, really. You have to be in a very specific headspace to listen to this. I know that sounds confusing, but if you take the time to listen to any of this man's music, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It did take me a while to get into Paysage because I guess I just didn't understand exactly how to listen to it yet. In my opinion, this album has the most effective atmosphere and is the most hypnotizing out of the entire discography of Paysage d'hiver, and that's why it's on this list. And also, the album cover is one of my favorite ever. It's the photo on screen right now, obviously. I've given other bands that are put in the same category as Paysage d'hiver a chance, and none of them can really capture the atmosphere Tobias Mockl does with this project. I know I said this list isn't in order, but if it was, this album would be in the upper echelon, right? In the top 3 even. And anyway, let's get on to the next. Next up is Anti by KFR. This is a one-man black metal project by Maxime Taccardi, I believe is how you pronounce his name. He is also an artist who is notorious for painting with his own blood, and I actually follow him on Instagram. I keep up with his artwork, and yes, the album cover on screen right now is an artwork from Maxime Taccardi painted in his own blood, but that's besides the point. This album creates a very unsettling atmosphere. This is not a release I would recommend to someone who is trying to get into black metal. This would probably make them never want to listen to black metal again. It's hard to even find a subgenre to put this under. I guess most people would say like experimental black metal / dark ambient. I would even argue atmospheric black metal could be said, because it creates an atmosphere. You know, it's not like a peaceful atmosphere, it's a terrifying atmosphere. You know, it's not a necessarily pleasant experience. You know, black metal is supposed to be pleasant, it's supposed to be pushing the envelope, it's supposed to be unsettling, it's supposed to be harsh, inaccessible. KFR and Anti in particular have been a very strong influence on my own music too. I don't like taking a lot of direct musical influences from other bands because I want to create my own sound, but KFR is one of the few bands where I've drawn direct inspiration from, and to this day I still believe this is the best thing he's ever released. It's very impressive that his first album with KFR managed to be this creative, well crafted, and best thing he's ever put out with the project, in my opinion. One of my favorite albums ever. Peste Noire, self-titled, is in my opinion their magnum opus. I've long considered Peste Noire to be one of the most ambitious black metal projects and one of the best experimental black metal bands ever. This is actually a very fun album, which is a word I would not use for really any of the other albums on this list, maybe besides one or two others. I remember always hearing about Peste Noire on like YouTube or wherever, just people talking about them, and I never really gave them a chance until somewhat recently, not really, like a couple years ago, and I listened to the debut record, and I remember really enjoying it, but it didn't impress me as much as I thought it would just by the descriptions I was being given of this band. And so I went a little deeper, listened to some of the other stuff. Before I had listened to this album, my favorite was, again, I can't pronounce it, it's in like French, just Leorda something. You know the one I'm talking about, the really experimental one. At that time, I didn't think anything could top that in Peste's discography until I finally listened to this album. This is one of the most ambitious, creative, catchy, and fun black metal albums I've ever heard in my life. Famin's vocals on this just have such a ugly sound to them, like he genuinely does sound like he's drunk, and that really fits the themes of Peste Noire and the music very, very well. And I love the contrast between his vocals vocals, and then the occasional guest female vocalist who has this very conventionally beautiful voice, so it's a very strange contrast sometimes. It works really, really well, and it's really cool. Anyway, let's get on to the next. Human Serpent is a band I can't necessarily pinpoint exactly why I'm so enthralled by their sound, because it's nothing I haven't heard before. It's not really doing anything new, but the way they execute it is just so effective. And this album is the epitome of that sound. It is very aggressive, in your face, fast. The man behind the vocals, guitar, and bass, so basically the primary member of this band, as I believe it was a duo, unfortunately committed suicide in 2021. His vocals are genuinely some of my favorite in the entire genre. They almost have a hardcore punk edge to them. They sound very strange. This is a very addictive album, is a way I would describe it. It's really hard to stop it once you start playing it. This is really an album that I can listen to under almost any circumstance. Very versatile. Alëce IΩic. This is the album that I've probably mispronounced the worst because it's literally in a made-up language. There are only 2 songs on this album. One's about 20 minutes, I think, and the other's like 45. Both of these songs are some of the greatest pieces of music I've ever heard in my life. This album is one of the most beautiful journeys you can go on, not only in black metal, but in music itself. It may take a while to fully understand this album, but once you do, it's like nothing else. I don't understand how Damien Ojeda keeps putting out stuff like this. I didn't really listen to this album when it first came out because I was so overwhelmed by the amount of trial releases that were being put out at the time that it took a while to get to this album, which is a bit sad because it's something special. This album has the atmosphere of a rainforest, like during a storm or something. A monumental feat in music. And the second Damien Ojeda album I have on here is Somewhere Along Our Memory by Sadness. This album has been with me for a very, very long time now. And the fact that this album has been with me for so long has added a lot of nostalgia to it, which makes it even more impactful to me. This is where Sadness peaked in their sound. In my opinion, this is where Damien found the perfect sound for Sadness. And I still do like the stuff he's doing now with the project. You know, it's a bit more emo-y and shoegazy now, as opposed to the black metal approach on albums like this. It's good, but it really doesn't compare to this era. It's hard to even find words to describe this album for this video. All I can really say is listen to it for yourself. I would say that for all the albums on this list, obviously. You know, don't just take my word for it, because my words aren't very good. Just listen to the albums on this list. And this always hits me with just an insane amount of nostalgia. And that's a very powerful emotion. Icons Garden has long been a band that I've been intrigued by, yet it wasn't until the last couple years where I truly began to dive into his music more. Some people describe his music as depressive black metal with neoclassical influences. I think the man behind it, Stefan Kozak, said that he describes his music as romantic metal. This album, The Black Laments Symphonie, stands out a lot in his discography in my opinion, and I think it is, by a considerable margin, his best album. And unfortunately, Stefan Kozak committed suicide. This is one of the more technically impressive albums on this list, which doesn't really mean a lot to me because I'm not really paying attention to how technical a song is when I'm listening to it, but I think it's worth mentioning. But don't let that fool you, it's not just guitar wankery, it is still extremely emotional black metal. I've also seen people give this album the labels of experimental or avant-garde black metal, which I think does suit it to a degree, but I feel like it's more than that. This is the third French project on this list. Kind of crazy, the French make extremely good black metal. Now here's something a little different. Echoes of Battle by Kaladin Brood. Very epic and grandiose. The literal genre or subgenre name is epic black metal. Obviously taking a lot of influence from Summoning. But in my opinion, this album is better than any given Summoning album, which might be a bit of a controversial statement. This is also an album that's been with me for a while, and it has a lot of fun memories attached with it, which is a breath of fresh air for black metal. Usually there are some more somber emotions attached to these albums when I've been listening to them for a long time. I would recommend to somebody trying to get into black metal I think this is a very good starting point. Cold World, Melancholie. I met a few people that have said this album gives them a really weird feeling, which I totally understand. I find this album extremely beautiful, yet there is a very noticeable sense of eeriness all throughout. The synth work and melodies on this thing, second to none. There is a very cold and desolate feeling to this whole. The album genuinely sounds like the album cover. Like, take a look at the album cover, imagine what it would sound like. Now listen to the album and see if I'm wrong. Helvet Spine, Forheksede Visjoner. Definitely pronounced that wrong. I believe this is the most recent discovery in this whole list. Very, very melancholic. The melodies and riffs on this release stand out a lot. And so does the bass, which is really, really cool for black metal. There is a very prominent bass on this thing. The vocals are very sparse and they're low pitched, and I think that gives off a really cool effect. It works with the instruments really, really well. The drums are super minimalistic and pretty low in the mix for the most part. The entire record sounds like a sunset to me, like a sunset or a sunrise to me. Really, really nice feeling. Very reflective. And unfortunately, this was the last album released by Helvet Spine because the man behind it, Bane Hog, took his own life. I believe there was a release after this, which was a split. I don't think Helvet Spine's side of the split is available anywhere online. I don't know, maybe it is, maybe I need to search for it a bit more, but I think it's only available through physical releases. The only place where you can really listen to this album online is like one YouTube video by Black Metal Promotion. You either listen to that or you have to buy the album, which I think is pretty cool. That is the case for a lot of black metal albums, actually. I think there might be some others on this list that are like that too. But yeah, that was the final album on this list. Again, this is not in order. And something else I probably should have said at the beginning of this video is that no repeats, so no repeated artists. And yeah, that's the video. Hope you enjoyed. Bye bye.